Blimey, Pete, you're cutting it fine. Our first podcast guest will be here any moment.
My alarm didn't ring. It decided I wouldn't get up on time anyway, so it saved itself the effort.
Ray doesn't trust the machines anymore. I'm not sure I do either.
Is that AI sandwich toaster still being bolshy?
It's formed a union with the microwave, the till, the coffee grinder, the tea's made. All Ray's machines are in revolt. I think they could be preparing to finally take over.
No wonder he's raging. He no longer thinks the machine's tops.
Conrad! You made it across the White Mountains.
Hello. Hey, who spilt all this coffee whitener? I thought we were here to spill tea on TV from the Cathode Ray era.
Quite right. What are you two drinking?
2 teas for me, please.
Oh, it's not instant coffee, is it? You should try pods.
Is that supposed to be a subtle hint/pun about what you brought?
Yes, it is.
It's worse than instant coffee, mate. The machines are all giving us what they think we ought to have. Decaf coffee, herbal teas, reduced fat cheese toasties.
Ooh.
The deep fat fryer's gone on strike altogether. I'll be making my own entertainment, doodling self-portraits on the back of this menu. It's A4, and draw me, duh.
Is that supposed to be a hint/pun about what you brought?
Well, the tea's made AI wrote it. Welcome to Cathode Rays, where we pick a theme and use it to discuss 3 episodes of British television. The only rule is we must have been able to watch the programmes on a CRT television set.
This time, we rage against the machines, as we have each nominated example episodes of series that delve into humanity's dark future. I've picked a 1966 episode of Out of the Unknown via 1909.
I've brought the tripods from 1984.
But let's start at A for Andromeda from 1961.
Perhaps it's inevitable. Perhaps it's evolution.
Look, I can foresee the time when we'll create our own higher form of intelligence, to which in the end we'll hand over. And it'll be in an inorganic form like this one, but it'll be something we've created ourselves.
So, were either of you two familiar with A for Andromeda in any of its forms?
No.
I'd heard of it. I knew it was a bit of a big deal, but I'd never got around to watching it. For reasons that became apparent a little bit too. It took a while for me to get my head around that. Which episode are we watching, Hannah?
We're watching its sole surviving episode, which is probably sort of why I sort of haven't actually got round to watching it. Sole surviving in full, which is episode 6 of 7. There's about 15 minutes left from the final episode, at the very end of it, which you can cut, so it's supposed to help us so you can see how it ends. Yeah, the plot is for the serial is basically some British scientists have been building a radio telescope, and they start getting signals from space that give them instructions to build a computer, and that then gives them instructions to build this living thing, Andromeda. And as time goes on, they start feeling, well, our lead protagonist, John Fleming, who's been one of the scientists on the original project, starts feeling more and more uncomfortable with the machine and Andromeda. It feels like it's not got humanity's best interests at heart. And so in this existing episode, we sort of see that with Andromeda, which has taken the form of this young woman, and she's... What is she doing? It's. I feel I'm trying to condense an awful lot here, guys. But I found it really compelling. I feel like I've not seen this much sci-fi like from this early, apart from probably like the Quatermass Experiment. But I instantly felt like quite drawn into like John Fleming's relationship with Andromeda. Like so her form is based on the form of his assistant prior to this, and so it feels like that kind of mishmash of, for one, it's someone he used to know, but also that feeling of I feel as humans we don't really like our machines to be too human-like. It's quite unnerving, and he feels like almost like she should be one thing or the other, and you can't entirely sort of trust her or the machine.
And this episode 6 of 7 feels like a pretty good jumping on place, because basically a whole new subplot thing kicks off with her being created, and the battle is she having a battle with the machine that created her at the same time as everyone else, and our lovely Neville Chamberlain Prime Minister type.
I was thinking bang on time for Harold Macmillan. I think he does then current.
Of course, trust you to get the history more precise. And because it's set like 10 years in it's the near future, isn't it?
So the whole serial I think ends up going over a couple of years, which is interesting actually for a serial, whereas normally it'd be like, events following it, but actually I think you jump forward in time with each episode, as far as I can gather, having not for obvious reasons seen the missing episodes. 70 to 72.
What did you make of it, Conrad?
Yeah, it was fascinating. I really enjoyed it. I jumped in at just episode 6. I thought I didn't even research it. Apart from having heard of it, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to really go in completely fresh with this one. I'm literally just going to watch episode 6 and just I'll just take what I can from it. I think one of the things one of the very first things that happens in it, I think it's in the title sequence, these kind of flashing lights, which immediately kind of put me in, and of course it's black and white, and it immediately put me in mind of that sort of Ipcress file kind of hypnotic way of, that flashing light is a way of kind of disorientating your brain and everything like that. And then I think within about a minute there's a reference to Pavlov's dogs. So we're like, okay, we're now into conditioning. So very quickly it was off the bat with that stuff. And then a lot of explanation about this kind of, it took me a while to figure out exactly politically where we are, what was going on, but it's very East v West, demonstrations of power, space race, arms race, missiles. It kind of was like, okay, I think I know roughly where we are. We're in some kind of Cold War. It had a very kind of Cold War feeling about it. But the thing that struck me very quickly, and it went right through it, is that the computers are, I think, the ubiquity of computers and machines, which are busy thinking in every single scene. They're flashing lights, there's things going on, there's a word, there's a noise, they're spewing out paper. He's even got danger written on it right behind them. So while these humans are having chats, there is this constant other thinking happening, independently of the humans, that's running throughout it. And I think that was just a really interesting backdrop. There's barely any scenes in this where there isn't some awareness of a computer burbling away, doing something else while we're all talking, which felt really... And we take it for granted in all sci-fi films, like, there's big reel-to-reel things and flashing lights and stuff. But in this, I don't know. Maybe it's quite high up in the mix. The noises were quite loud, or the visuals are very, very striking. So you really are left with the backdrop of this thing. Is like the machines doing their own thing, which I thought was really interesting.
Then there's something particularly menacing about it. Is this was it 61 that they're making it? That the computers can't put words on a screen. The computer can't tell you things through the medium of words. So it creates this woman to do it for you, but she's got underlying humanity that our hero, played with great gusto by Peter Halliday, who we'll be hearing more of later in this episode as well. It decides to get damn good aggressive snogging will sort her out at one point. But I'm doing it to set you free.
Happy in your work? Getting quite indispensable, aren't you?
Please be careful what you say.
Is that a threat?
Yes.
Look.
I'm busy.
Wait a minute.
There is none of the cliche that you might expect. Oh, it's the early 60s. There's going to be, the women are all going to be making the coffee. We've got Mary Morris bossing it as the biologist who taking no nonsense from anyone. Yeah. And Patricia Neal as your main scientist at the base. It says a lot to the writing of the time that they knew that there's that thing where you know that maybe 20-30% of your audience of any serial did not see last week's episode, and the ratings for this really steadily climbed. I noticed it started out at 7.5, and by the end it was at 12.9 for the final episode. So its ratings nearly doubled through a 7-week run on BBC One. And so they're structuring it so you can. They know that there's going to be a million or so people watching episode 6, and it's their first one, I guess.
the original run, it's not on the version that exists now, but had a little sort of intro at the start to recap you on last week as well.
Ah, handy. But it's interesting going into it completely cold without even knowing what the series is about, like one of those blunders. Had this been the first episode of something, I think you would have just caught up pretty sharpish. I felt like I was kind of on board in a couple of minutes. I just want to pick up on something you said there, Pete. It was about a damn good snogging, sorting her out and everything. But like actually, like the sort of the gender thing of technology is very interesting as well. Often nowadays, if anyone invents a personal assistant or something, it is basically always a sexy lady with some sort of Alexa, visualized Alexa,
And they give her the nickname Andre as well. It's like, oh, you've given her a pet name. And it's always like, they're trying, they're stopping seeing it like as a machine quite quickly. And it's like, it's one of us. And I find it interesting. It just feels so relevant to like today and still. And when John Fleming's there talking to Mary Morris' character about like it feels like the machines have like just slowly taken over, and he said, I can see someone will hand everything over to machines, like, but he feels like that's okay if it's something that they've created themselves and they know it's for their own good, whereas this one they don't entirely trust. And he's talking about, I feel like one of those chaps in Atrocities who's been forced to watch his whole family like being gunned down. Only this time it's the human race. Mary Morris is a bit dismissive of everything. Yes, you spoil your case, by going too far. But you can feel like his frustration and impotence that like, all the establishment are really embracing this, and it does feel just like a mirror in some ways of like the AI today, of where the government are like full ahead, and there's like some scientist in the background. Well, have you quite considered everything? This might not be quite the good idea. Are you sure this has been designed for humanity's own good?
Yeah. It's interesting. They described her at one point as a synthetic Wonder Girl, like some new sort of wonderful invention, which, again, Alexa is basically a synthetic Wonder Girl. But I think transposing that technology stuff onto a woman, particularly in the 60s, and a very beautiful woman, my God, it's Julie Christie, probably the most beautiful woman who's ever lived. It does something very interesting, and I think it gives you, I think at the time, a nice kind of contrast, because I think by then we're very used to men being scientific or going, I'm a scientist, I believe in X, Y, Z, whereas women typically were seen as more homemakers and more emotional, and to have a sort of emotional, in inverted commas, woman who's actually a completely kind of quite cold brainiac, it gives you a very interesting kind of canvas to draw, and a nice contrast to draw on for the viewer to go, she's a woman, she's beautiful, and yet she's completely cold and calculating and sort of intellectual. They even refer to her as brains and beauty, which were like, what an amazing mix. But so I think at the time it's made, they're just using her as a very interesting canvas on which to demonstrate the effect of machine technology and intelligence. Or maybe not.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Just coming in, there's the thing about the smell. He tries to make her paranoid that she doesn't smell like a real woman. And at one point she turns and says, do I smell nasty? Because there's the whole thing about what's the difference between nasty and nice. It's really, disconcerting.
I like the episode titles for this. So this one's got The Face of the Tiger, but the earlier ones are like The Message, The Machine, The Miracle, The Monster, The Murderer, before we hit to The Face of the Tiger, and finally The Last Mystery. And I without even sort of seeing them, I feel like it kind of tells you their relationship with the machine and how it's changing, very bluntly there in the episode titles.
Yeah. It's fascinating that the biggest show on Apple TV at the moment is I really struggle to say Pluribus. It's like Vengabus, but with pluri, which is a really good show. And its first episode is basically, its pre-credit sequence is basically episode 1 of this. A signal comes from, it's not a spoiler, a signal comes from outer space instructing them to build something. And so they decide to give it a go, with disastrous results. That's not a spoiler either. I mean, why would you watch it otherwise? This is definitely a thriller, isn't it? It's not a science fiction adventure. It's a taut thriller about how politics would cope with something like this. Yeah.
How many times have I got to tell you this machine is ruthless, completely ruthless?
So you decide to throw it off balance. You decide. You don't consult anyone. You're too clever. So clever the machine goes wrong and damn near kills the girl.
So, from one story that takes us, just skips a few years into its future, the next thing on our list is skipping quite a lot further into the future.
So yeah, we skip forward to 2089 AD in episode 13 of series 1 of The Tripods, The White Mountains.
At last we have it. Others like us will still come. Why?
To rid the world of tripods. You may have us, but others will still come. Hundreds, thousands, as many as it takes.
This is a post-apocalyptic society which has basically regressed to sort of pre-industrial medieval era where the human race is enslaved by the rule of the tripods, these giant mechanical three-legged vehicles piloted by the unseen masters, where basically all children are capped at the age of 14, where they've got something implanted on their head, which basically means they can function and they can work, but it suppresses all their individuality and makes them docile. Some caps don't work on some people, and those people are known as vagrants. They're sort of outcasts who are tolerated. You know, the villagers feed them, but you generally keep away from vagrants because they're sort of not okay. The story of the tripods is basically a 13-year-old boy called Will, who meets a vagrant called Ozymandias, who tells him about the free men living in the White Mountains in France, who are going to resist the tripods. And Will teams up with two friends, Henry and Beanpole, and they have a huge, great big epic adventure across Europe to join up with the free men and make it into the tripod city. This is a series that I remember very, very, very well, from 84 and 85. I really enjoyed it at the time, although I was quite frustrated about it for various reasons. Hannah, am I right in thinking you hadn't seen this before?
No. So I didn't really know much about it, apart from I think perhaps the reason you're frustrated about it. But I felt like I should watch episode 1 so that I might have a clue what the hell's going on. I'll be honest, it didn't help a great deal. I've got a long list of questions. I've got a short list of questions, basically trying to figure out. I can't quite work out what the tripods are getting out of humanity, and therefore why humanity don't have electricity, manufacturing, and have quite quickly, in it seemed to be about 100 years, lost all the things they had before and seemed to have forgotten that stuff like cars and computer games was quite nice. And it's interesting you then say that, they get capped at 14, because I was presuming it was 18, which I'm now realising is probably down to the age of the sort of young actors. Yeah. Because I thought, 18, when they become like men, that would make sense. But I get the sort of 14 bit now. But in other words, it was just very much kind of, from the bits I've seen, it felt like a traditional story of young country boys going off to have a fun adventure on a quest, like almost, Hobbit type thing. But then on the other hand, it reminded me a bit of stuff like Dave the Triffids and Survivors, where they suddenly have, for clear reasons, have gone back to a primitive existence post-apocalypse, which I just kept finding I was struggling to buy into tripods, because I was just like, but why haven't they got electric lights anymore?
It's all explained in series 3.
Want them to have the big light?
Yeah, it's interesting. John Christopher, who wrote it, is a writer called Sam Yude. His real name is. He basically was inspired by a lot of 1930s science fiction, and he said in the early 30s we knew just enough about the solar system to. For its possibilities to be a magnet for our imagination. He was really in it for an adventure series, so there weren't that many political sort of allegories or pulls around it. It is quite similar to the Lord of the Rings. You're absolutely right. And it's an adventure series of 3 lads set off, and there's that threat of industrialization as well in Lord of the Rings with Mordor and everything, which is basically the Black Country. It's purely a sort of boys' own adventure series. The actual explanation, I think the tripods, the masters, who are from another planet, basically they realised, they felt that man was getting too advanced in its technologies and it was becoming threatening. And so they thought, we need to go to this planet and damp it all down to stop them getting above themselves. So the tripods came basically in these machines and cities in which they could survive the Earth's atmosphere. And basically their version of trying to suppress people, and the reason it was 14, it was because it was when the rebellious instinct, they were trying to get rid of the rebellious instinct, and some of the actual masters and tripods wanted to make it earlier, but they couldn't cap them until the brain case is fully formed. So like, damn, we'll just have to get them when they're 14. And so it's not necessarily about when they become a man or sort of socially responsible. It's that they're trying to stunt the development. And again, this gendered thing is very interesting. It's boys, that they were seen like boys' rebelliousness and that kind of will. I mean, the lead character is called Will. I think that is the most threatening thing to these machines is independent human spirit, and the feistiest form of it in this adventure is sort of young boys, and something kind of very, very tragic about seeing the young lads when they get capped and they're completely docile. In the first episode, Will sees his best friend get capped, and it's just horrible to see that. It's interesting because he wrote pretty much predominantly for men. There are more women in the TV series, but in the books it's almost uniquely boys and men. He was told by his publisher at the time, girls will read boys' stories, boys won't read girls' stories. And there is probably, it's not fair, but it's probably completely true. And I think actually in the BBC series, they put a lot of girls in it, a lot of love interest, which does pay off. It does pay off momentarily when Wills gets a love interest, Eloise, who, spoilers, gets capped. And that is horrific. It's horrific that this girl he's fallen in love with over all this time, he takes place in this tournament that he's willingly participating in, not realising that the whole family are like, oh yes, with the prizes, we send our daughter off to be capped. And it is absolutely horrible. Unfortunately, it backfires because they put way too many girls and love interests there. There's like famously entire series of episodes where they're just sort of they go to a farmhouse where
they make wine.
Daughters for everybody, and they make wine for about 3 weeks. And they really should have had. They should have had like a tripod in every episode,
Yeah. There's a reference to this in the final episode where they're kind of recounting their adventure.
Yes.
I was just like, what shit are they making up here about that they've been making wine? Episodes? Surely they haven't been doing that in this series.
So like you, Conrad, I was target age for this at the time. Blue Peter gave it the heavy sell. I wanted War of the Worlds. This clearly is going to be like War of the Worlds every single week. And although this episode 13 has a kick-ass big battle at the beginning.
What is it?
Tripod, wake Will.
Will, tripod.
A good choice. There is not a lot of that throughout to reward you for your 4 months of viewership as it goes on. I bought the little books from my school book club. They had TV tie-in book covers, including the third one, which had a picture of. That's the one. Oh, you got Conrad's holding up the trilogy edition. I had the 3 individual ones. I don't think I ever finished reading them. I don't remember it. But I listened to the audiobooks on Audible a few months ago, the third one really does fill in. That's why it all happened. And it is a bit about humanity. That lots of humanity chose to side with the tripods when we were invaded, because it ended the anarchy and the fear and the chaos that had preceded it. So that's the thing of some humans quite like being dominated and such like. Kissing girls and making wine and literally walking across France for 5 weeks, and there's one episode where it's like, oh, is that a tripod in the distance? Oh no, it's a tree, and like that's all you see of the tripod that week. The audiobook, you can listen to the audiobook of the first series in 3.5 hours. That's how long it takes to read the book. The series is 4.5 hours long. How did you manage to adapt a book and make it an hour slower than just reading the book? Which is a shame, because the aesthetics, the vibe, the whole concept of it is brilliant. But yeah, it should have been half this long, is the only thing I would say.
I love the White Mountains, actually, the views there. I'm guessing it's painted matte work, and that looks fantastic. And like the tripods attack, I'm thinking I'd like to go and watch more of that, but guessing probably not that much from the sound of it. But nonetheless, yeah, it's awesome.
It's a really it's a sort of interesting show. Like, it clearly doesn't fully work, and cruelly, the tripod has been denied its third leg, and now we've got 2 episodes of two series out of 3, which is desperately sad. This was a huge prestige production for the BBC. Like, it is noticeably more expensive than their normal Saturday output. It feels like a mixture between a period drama, even though it's not period, but they're clearly using all the locations and the costumiers to come up with, and also they couldn't just put people in period gear. They had to invent a new kind of retro future gear. So it's like when you look about how they made this program, the ambition is so huge that you can only feel a bit bad about it. There is no two ways about it. It lags way too much. The acting is. Some of the acting and directing is oddly stilted. The 3 Juve leads, I mean, we were a bit more used to in those days. They were just cast someone who wasn't that interesting, but you kind of, part of the charm was they looked like you and your school friends. Like the 3 boys there looked like, we all look like that at school. I mean, Pete still look like that, basically. But what's interesting in terms of the machines, actually, the influence they have. It's a certain type of, I think through all these episodes you see different types of machine control, and I think this one feels very much the cap on the head. Bear in mind, this was written in 1967, so lobotomies were, big and invented in the 30s. Huge, steep uprise in lobotomies in the 30s, 40s, and 50s in America and the UK. Electroshock treatment then kind of took over that in the 50s. So we've got this circuit brain thing on their heads. Post-war, we've become more aware of things like shell shock and psychological warfare, and the damage that came back from these young men. So I think mental conditioning and having things implanted or getting inside your brain and doing something would have been in the kind of ether at the time, which is why these boys getting capped is quite a sort of chilling image, and I think would have been in people's minds then.
One thing I noticed while rewatching it, there's quite a bit of French spoken, and they don't bother putting subtitles on. They're assuming that this is going out. This is BBC One on Saturday afternoon. Well, no, early evening. It was any kids watching this are going to at least have done the basic unit of French. They know what "don't go there" means or "stop doing that" means. They do flip into English eventually, but there's fairly there's a minute or 2 of people just talking basic French. Without the need for subtitles, which is a bit of a vote of confidence in your viewers' intellect.
This viewer's intellect was not up there, but I will say the tone of just "get over there" is kind of there.
It kind of carries, doesn't it? And Peter Halliday is back, as the leader of the Black Guards who've been pursuing them all year.
Still intense,
It's
It is not unknown for tripods to take away memory of being conditioned in this way. Whatever the truth, we shall discover it. Tous les trois ensemble.
The Black Guards were introduced with another TV innovation because they couldn't have the tripods and masters following around everywhere, unfortunately. So we had to have some human go-betweens. So we got budget
ones,
So we got some budget ones, which are the Black Guards, who were still very impressive and got great costumes. Because a lot of this episode is about Will, Henry, and Beanpole trying to meet the free men, but apparently are captured by a load of Black Guards and interrogated. And again, you see a lot of this mind control stuff that was in the ether at the time, because I think at the time people could still believe, in the 60s and stuff, people still very much believed that you could be brainwashed. People coming back from communist countries going, what, it's not too bad over there. They were going, well, they must have been brainwashed, And there was a lot of this, Russia and CIA were doing a lot of experiments into LSD and psychedelics, saying, can we influence people? Can you literally change people's mind and make them do something they don't want to do against their will? Like, enormous amounts of stuff gone into that. You can't. But they later found out that the most effective ways to do it are through things like propaganda, as we see now with Fox News and such. And in
advertising, you think that's the period when we've got television advertising and companies are putting a hell of a lot of money into their marketing, and you've got mass advertising for the first time, which I think does lean into some of those techniques. I mean, it goes better with Coke, Pepsi, whatever. That's very much, you could argue, a form of brainwashing.
But at the time, they were very going. The machines would do it by implanting something into your head, or flashing lots of lights on and off, or making you do things would be the way to do it. But of course, it's not. And interestingly, the John Christopher wrote obviously it's a trilogy. He wrote in the 60s, but he wrote a prequel book in 1988 called When the Tripods Came, which shows the story of when they arrived. Hannah, maybe that's the book for you to start on.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe that's one. And apparently the way they did it was through a television program called The Trippy Show. Which was their way of hypnotizing people. So actually, oddly, as he wrote it, that's actually more likely to actually get people before they then later came in with this slap a metal plate on your head and make you docile. So,
I mean, is it BBC or ITV? And was this part of the broadcasting hours, or did it come under education and religion?
I think it's the test card. All of us that watched it was the Trippy Show.
I like those interrogation scenes with the boys, actually. Despite the fact it sounds like they dredge out most of the story, I think this kind of condenses something quite fast, and we cut between like three of them being done separately, and you get that passion of is it like Jack and Henry, two boys especially, who are just clearly both like physically and emotionally exhausted at this point. It's the final episode. It's end of part one of the adventure, and that bit where Peter Halliday's character is raging against Henry, calling him a stupid country boy.
You come this way, all this way, on the word of a vagrant? Stupid! You're a stupid country boy! Your fool of a cousin tells you to leave home and you obey. You meet a French boy you have never seen before and you take his word, like this vagrant.
And he's just breaking down. I killed a tripod! I did something! But it is really good. It feels like, everything they've done has been a waste. Yet this is the only one of the episodes we picked today that has a triumphant ending. Everything there's hope there. There's not really, and it feels
proper. Hurrah! We're going to the city. Season 2 is going to be much better, which is actually true. Which is, I think it was. Yeah,
we go to basically the next series. We spend it all in a big space city. Which is marvellous, and it ends much tragically with the terrible line, has it all been for nothing? Which, of course, the people who made the programme were very much filming that, and the answer was yes, it has been all for nothing. But also, I think you're right, Hannah. With the thing of them watching it, because I watched it again earlier this year. I think it's the 40th anniversary of the Tripods, either this or last year. So I watched the whole thing. And I remember at the time, having watched this for 12 weeks, and as Peter said, and I said, like, when you're tuning every Saturday night to get your robot fix, and you're like, we've got sort of like agricultural girls like making wine. It was just like, this is the opposite of what I want to see. But the thing is, I stuck with it, young me stuck with it. And actually, after those 12 weeks, this episode, not only do you get that incredible night shoot fight with the tripods where the models are completely unclockable. You can't tell the little flashes of what the models are. It's absolutely fantastic.
A laser battle in the dark is such a
in the woods.
And it's so 80s with massive neon lights everywhere. Yeah.
They do it absolutely brilliantly. But actually, when they recounted all the adventures they'd been through, it really, and because a lot of those adventures had been a bloody slog, in some bizarre way, you did feel like, dudes, we've all been through so much. So you really, so as the young boys, you did actually feel that. And it's easy to mock as an adult, but actually as a kid, I was like, I put 3 months into this, just praying for little grips. And so actually, to get a kick-ass fight, and this, you're like, oh my God, we finally, got the 3 men, and they're bloody not there, being interrogated, was so frustrating. And when they revealed that, actually you've passed the test, you've really got here. And at the end, you're like, we're going to go to the Tripod City. And the last shot is this model of this, what do you call it, a hive of domination and cruelty. And I'm like, let's do this. So I just have to be generous to my young teen self and go, it was a slog and very frustrating getting through it. But by the end of this series, I was kind of punching the air with the rest of them.
And the theme music is the most air-punchy theme music. It's the
The
best.
music's incredible.
80s. Yeah, it's kind of the same tune, but in the opening credits, it's a really dramatic and fast-paced version, and in the end, it's really slow and brooding and scary and ominous, like thunder on the horizon, which is a great
noise, that insidious noise of the tribe. That's kind of like a slightly electronic kind of, and it feels like something's creeping in. I think the very first image are of these kind of like synapsy shapes, all sort of like reducing down into a circle and triangles. So it's so clever. You know, the BBC really are. They're not. It's not a perfect series. It's a flawed series hugely, but some of those strokes are just, you know, masterly.
Absolutely. So going from one literary adaptation to another and jumping back quite a bit further, my nomination for this episode is an episode of Out of the Unknown, a BBC Two science fiction series for grown-ups that ran sort of late on a Sunday night from the mid-60s to I think 1970. And this is the episode that launched Series 2. So they knew they've always got, it's been going well. The ratings have been good, and the critics have been quite kind to it. And this has got a much higher budget than any of the previous episodes. It's shot entirely on 35mm film, which is unusual for 66, and it's an adaptation of an E.M. Forster short story from 1909 called The Machine Stops.
Above you, beneath you, around you is the machine. The Earth carrying you speeds through space, turning you now to the invisible sun, now to the invisible stars. But deep down in the machine, you have your own darkness and your own light.
I'd never heard of it until I heard the story on the radio. It might have been a big BBC seventh. What's it called? The Toby Hadoke Zone on Radio 7, before it became 4 Extra, where they used to play science fiction plays and things. And I heard it there and looked it up, and it turned out there's a TV version of it, and that's what led me to it. Had either of you two heard of this before?
I feel like I'd heard of it as a kind of, if you're going to watch Out of the Unknown, like, here's some top ones to see.
Yeah, I'd like A for Andromeda, I'd heard the name, knew nothing about it, and again, just went in and watched the one episode completely cold without reading a single thing, which is very exciting.
Yeah, and this is, the show is an anthology of short stories written by science fiction writers. I didn't know that Ian Forster was a science fiction writer. That is I'm going to waive my ignorance on that. He wrote Merchant Ivory things about people in Edwardian times, was what I would have gone to. But no, he wrote a fair few of these. And so this one, to summarise, we meet Vashti, and she lives in an underground cell. There are no windows. She's got nice projections to look at. And she spends, like everyone, all of her days in a reclining chair that can sort of move about in her, I call it a cell. It's big. It's a big room. And it's got a giant hexagon thing that completely fills one wall of it, which has a little screen in the middle, a triangular screen. And somehow this bizarre machine with a screen in the middle of it is both a television and a telephone. She can watch people. She can speak to people on the other side of the world.
Come and see me.
But I can see you. From the other side of the earth I can see you. What more do you want?
I want to see you, not through the machine. I want to speak to you, not through the wearisome machine.
Shh! You mustn't say anything against the machine.
Why not?
One mustn't, that's all.
And she even she delivers little lectures on niche subjects that she's interested in at a regular time, and people all over the world tune in to listen to her.
Sounds terrible.
This is 1909, and he's just thought up teams, he's thought up podcasts, he's thought up lockdown, because everyone is terrified of kind of going outside. Just sounds horrible. Ooh, that sounds ghastly. It's that kind of
Why
kind of
would
vibe.
you ever need to leave your home?
Yeah. But as it progresses, and she's played by Yvonne Mitchell, which is a name I should know. I didn't know, and I should, looking at her CV. She was the first person ever to play Kathy on TV in an adaptation of Wuthering Heights in '53 by Nigel Neal and Rudolph Cartier, and she was Julia in 1984 with Peter Cushing, the original TV version of that. So she's big news, 50s and 60s TV. And we meet her son, who has a strange rebellious streak, and not unlike our Tripods boys, yearns for something more, and wants to go outside. And people can go outside if they fill out the right forms and get the right equipment. But he's yearning to rip his way out of his little cell, and just be able to go out whenever he wants to. And that then leads to rather disturbing, trippy, scary worms on the surface coming to drag him back again, which the way that he shrieks and screams as these worms are pulling him back after he's broken out. They're called worms in the story. Well, it's just tendril type things that come out of the air conditioning vent. I wonder if I didn't check. Did the Enforcer also invent using an air conditioning shaft as a as a science fiction trope? That would be an amazing thing to chalk up to him, because it certainly gets used pretty well at other times. Yeah. So how did it land, Hannah, when you started watching it?
I really like that stuff outside on location feels really dreamlike. The way it's shot, it doesn't feel as real as this underground stuff. It's quite it's very sort of 60s and trippy, and you come away just go, well, did that actually happen, or was he just dreaming about it? But it's clear from some dialogue afterwards that it did. And everything underneath is quite sterile. I found it's my favourite thing out of these three, because it feels like stuff happens quite slowly, and you really only got these sort of two characters. But because it's so slowly, there's just something about it that's quite gripping. Even just like I didn't even like consciously notice it initially, but the hum of the machine, which then Vashti references when it's no longer there. It's like, oh my god, the silence, and it's horrendous. But I just find it's the way she's very social in ways of that. She's constantly like on the phone to like a friend or something. But oh my god, time. Why would you go out and see some people? Yeah. But the way like Kuno's like begging her, he wants her to come see him in person. And when he rings, it's like, why are you ringing me? You could just send a message. It always feels like the reversal of what we now know of just kids never getting in touch with their parents. Just send me a text.
This mother-son relationship could have been an email. It's one of those.
Yes.
And again, it's interesting. It's going back to that again. It's very, very interesting. Like just that idea of A for Andromeda. You've got like this very beautiful dolly bird. Imagine if she was sort of computer smart. And in this, it's like the mother, the relationship to the mother and son is very disturbing here. And towards the end, it gets kind of oddly sort of incestuous feeling. There's something very, very strange happening here. But it's interesting that it's a mother who is just totally unmotherly. They've shaved her head. She's terribly cold. It's funny this set when the boys trying to break out of these inhuman corridors that always seem to have been there. I remember thinking, oh, this is like the Nostromo. Just going through these corridors, like you're just going through the belly of a beast, and he's trying to sort of break out of it. And I sort of thought, gosh, there's the mother in that as mother in Alien. It's like it's dramatically, it's a really good thing to take the most soft, warm, nurturing thing ever and then turn it into the coldest, most callous thing. It's a shorthand for this stuff.
And there's a little line from one of her friends where she just mentions that she's seen her son, and one of her friends is shocked. You saw your son, but you gave birth. They took him away. Why would you stay in touch? So to the people of that world, she's weirdly still connected to a thing she gave birth to, which the machine will have. Or the committee rather will have used the machine to assign it to a suitable family. And there's things, and she just casually drops at one point that she's in the middle of it. The world's various things are building up, and we should this is the only thing we're doing this week where it's the whole thing. It's the end of the thing. So spoilers here for 1908, basically, if we go, because I think we do want to talk about the ending, don't we? because it's a hell of an ending. But yeah, go away and watch it now if you don't want us to spoil, if you don't want the ending spoiling first. She just gives a casual line about, she says to a friend, I requested euthanasia again today, but they've turned me down. Population isn't growing enough. I'll ask again in a couple of weeks. And it's not even, and then it just moves on. That's not the idea that that's a trivial thing to these people.
It basically feels like the machine is talked about godlike, really, and it does feel like the machines, although they built it, the machine has made them more machine-like. All the things around like birth and children, the idea that humans would want to procreate just for the purpose of carrying on the human race, because essentially the children are taken away to nurseries as soon as you're done with it, and that's it. And I just find it amazing that it is amazingly bleak to imagine a future where humans wouldn't love their children enough to want to raise them themselves, that they'd be so like dispassionate and cold about it, and so like just logical and removed from it. But yet there's clearly, the ending, it almost feels like there is an implication that there is something there in Vashti, that despite everything we've seen and heard from her, like at the end of it, she wants to be with her son.
Yeah, it's the end of the world, as I said, of her world, and the way that it just starts dropping, it's lovely. There's one of her friends notices that she can hear a strange noise.
The Wi-Fi's down, basically.
Yeah. And then she notices her music's imperfect. Yeah, Spotify's glitching, and she summons the machine, and she puts in a request for it to be repaired, and the explanation that she figures out is that the repairing machine needs to be repaired, and nobody knows how to do it. The previous generations built it and have handed down the knowledge, but not sufficiently. It's enshittification should be the word of the year, and it should definitely be the word of 1909, even though I suspect Foster uses more gallant prose than that. But that is what it boils down to. People with really complicated things, and without enough investment and without enough intelligence and knowledge, it all starts falling apart, and it's terrifying.
I can't even be sure of my lecture music these days. It gets worse and worse each time I summon it.
I, too, have my troubles. Sometimes my ideas are interrupted by a slight jarring noise.
What is it?
I do not know whether it's inside my head or inside the wall.
Complain in either case.
I have complained. My complaint was forwarded to the Committee of the Mending Apparatus.
And what did they say?
They said the defect would be put right shortly.
Praise the machine.
Praise the machine.
Not unlike the thoughts behind Threads, the title of Threads. It's not really just about what happens when a big bomb goes off. It's about the consequences. It's about there are no farms, there are no hospitals. It's the things that we take for granted that are just the floor and the walls and the ceiling of our world suddenly start falling away.
And for them, I think it's that basically they can't breathe the actual air outside anymore, so they need the machines to create a breathable atmosphere underground. So that's why everything falls apart so quickly.
Or I'm not sure. Told that. I'm not sure if they, because he's out there for a while, and he's getting he's not used to the breathing. You're right. They've got dependent on their environment. So they're totally dependent, weak and effete. You get the sense that they can't. How could you go outside? Like, how would you manage? Even at one point, the mother says, I would like to come and fly to see you, but I have to look out the window and I see the earth and the sea, and it's disgusting. Why would I want to see that?
It takes her 2 hours to get to Australia, and she can't. And she's there. She says, "I can only stay for a minute. I'm going home."
Yeah, it's amazing. Also, I think it was again, as in the first one, we talked about like this that there being a machine, like you said, Hannah. There's a noise constantly through it, and if there's silence, they just can't handle it. I'm reminded of the Onion headline: "Man bravely folds laundry without listening to podcast." And a lot of that sort of. A lot of the environment in which she sort of sat at the beginning going, why would you need anything? We sit here, the machine provides us all our needs, we can stay at home. And we have, I've been sort of very impressed with, like, that does kind of feel like how we are now. But that constant surveillance that goes all the way through it, after the mother and son have that conversation about why come you visit me? Well, I don't want to. Come and visit me, really. And you get the sense that the son is starting to go, look, break the rules a bit. Never mind what the machine wants. Come and see me. I'm your son. And then the scene is played back in fragments. And I think we are automatically to assume that it's the machine listening back. So we get to see the machine listening to fragments of their conversation in little bits. And it's this surveillance thing as well. And I noticed that the first CCTV camera came in 1960. The Metropolitan Police put 2 in Trafalgar Square on Guy Fawkes night to make sure there was no shenanigans. And in 1961, I think the first permanent camera was put into Dagenham train station to stop vandalism. But that idea of surveillance and recording and stuff is starting to come in, and I really enjoyed that moment of where the machine, without talking to us, they just very cleverly played the scene back as a computer would see it. So it's fragments of shots of eyes, bits of fragments of voices. And it's like, oh Christ, this thing's listening to us all the way through. And it only comes up once they've had that slightly rebellious conversation. The computer's like, what did they just say? We're hearing something. And it gives you that sense of which machines and computers often do. Particularly, I was interested, Pete, when you said earlier that computers didn't used to put on the screen what was happening. They would just whir and click, and occasionally, if you were lucky, spew out a report you'd asked for.
There's some good direction there as well in terms of that it feels like someone's watching. There's one scene where the two of them are talking to one another, and we get a shot that's a bit high up and a bit awkward, and it goes on for quite a while, and you think, no, you'd cut at this point to, a shot of her and a shot of him, or, a different angle on it, but it just stays there at this not quite good angle to see them, and it does feel like it's someone watching, but it puts you in that position as well, therefore, as the viewer, you're part of the machine as well, which it's so weird and so well done.
I think what's interesting as well is that when you've got this kind of man versus machine thing, the question of the interface between those two things is interesting. So in A for Andromeda, she is sort of the interface, although when she needs to communicate with the computer, she has to physically hold on to it, and it will send her signals that are good or bad. In the tripods, this sort of thing is forced onto them. The metal bit is bolted onto you. There's also a bit later in the series where the tripod secretly doesn't cap Will, but it secretly puts a little button, a little tracker under his armpit. So that's a virtually implanting version of it, which is in the 60s. Whereas the interface here is interesting, and I said it's very, very, I think it's very, very prescient, because she closes screens and she can open and close screens through gestures, which we can now do, that kind of gesture thing, which I thought was quite interesting. I'm just very, very, very fascinated by the different ways they. Yes, and then of course there's a horrible scene where I think is she getting tested? Is she testing herself for something?
And the doctor, she calls for the doctor.
She calls for the doctor, and this obscene dome comes down the ceiling with horrible pincers. It sticks tubes up her nose. It's this obscene, penetrative thing, and I just think the interface is always just fascinating to see how different television programs imagine those things happen.
And the look on her face is this contraption of plastic things. And she just looks relieved. She looks reassured, because she'd been feeling strange, and now it's all right. This thing's here. It's going to take care of me. It's going to soothe me. You get a little close up of her eye, and her eye. That's the great thing about this being on 35mm. Which was because of the set, just because of the sets. I think they had to. They were spending so much money on really big sets for it. They were. I don't know precisely whether it was at Elstree, but that's that sort of thing. It wasn't being done in the usual way, and because of that, you can get little tiny movements of her eye. One of my favourite shots in this, it's in that little montage you're talking about. I think, Conrad, actually, just after she's talked to her son, and we see the son climbing up the ladder, up his ventilation shaft, and we see a shot of her face, and she's looking concerned, and she's thinking, and the ladder is superimposed over her face, and he climbs up and climbing into her eye, that insight, and
at some point there's a reference to a food tube, a medicine tube, and a music tube. So this thing that we're feeding off this machine, we're dependent on it, we're literally hooked. I guess it's that mother thing. We're literally kind of plugged in and suckling to these awful sort of obscene machines. There's something really kind of it gets under your skin, like it's in a similar way that technology in Alien gets under your skin. The actual technology just feels uncanny, unnatural, invasive.
It's that organicness to it as well.
That nearly organicness, yeah.
Like
the uncanny.
Coming back to A for Andromeda, that it's unnerving because it's not quite human, it's not quite machine. It's trying to mesh the two, and it doesn't feel like it's right that they should meet.
I've discovered a new thought.
Tell it to me then.
It's a terrible thought. It will frighten you.
Fear is out of date. Tell me.
The machine stops.
What do you say?
The machine is stopping. I know the signs.
Can you imagine anything more absurd?
I know the signs, I tell you.
And the mix, I think now, just to bring it up to now, is just like AI. The AI slop we have in 2025 is the horrible blend. It's the ultimate sort of grotesque, queasy blend of human and machine. If you put them together, it makes this kind of like slightly queasy Play-Doh.
It kind of feels like AI often reflects people's desire to offload and let something else take responsibility and like deal with stuff, which feels like it fits with what you say. In this, she's happy that like the medical droid thing is there because it's like, just someone else can take care of it now. Like, I haven't got to think about looking after myself or taking care of myself, despite being a fully grown adult who's birthed children. Because I've just got a machine to do it, and I don't have to think about who's behind that or who's looking after that or keeping that in charge until the day that like no one is anymore.
I think the aesthetics of the 260s shows we look at, I think it's a really effective strategy for doing technology, because it's very black and white op art. It's quite trippy. The music's very electronica, so it's kind of very rudely, baldly not natural. It's not kind of green, and the tripod is very pastoral in its sort of nature, so it's often quite hard to get. You have got that love, the image of a tripod, a metal thing in a natural environment. They often use to really great effect. It's that old, it's the machine in the garden, trope, which again I think that would have been outwritten in '64. A book about American literature, and this image of the machine in the garden, this kind of tension between sort of the pastoral and progress, and I think in both 60s stories, it's oddly more effective because the technology they're using at the time of sort of op art, pop art, flashing lights, trippy electronica, it gives you a really nice texture. It always sort of feels like a circuit board. So that I think both the 60s episodes kind of triumph in their style. I think 80s stuff, if it was set really 80s like, would be very effective. And I think the 60s, in both 60s episodes, I just think visually and sound-wise are very, very effective at describing a computer world.
I'd fight anyone who tried to colorise these two black and white ones, because their black and whiteness is so stark and such a vivid part of their impact and their otherworldliness. They just use that. They both use that monochrome, like you're saying, Conrad. It makes it, particularly when it said it meant trying to disconcert us anyway. And that final scene, again, spoilers, the machine stops with her, and she's holding her child for the first time ever. She never got to hold it when it was born, and her friends all think she's weird for even staying in touch with him. And then finally, it's the end of the fucking world, and she holds him in her arms, and she gets a little bit of snot on her nose while she's not crying, but there's and the light catches it, and they just carry, she just sniffs it away. Something visceral, something human, something animal about these. That's what people really are. And we got a glimpse. We haven't mentioned. There's the glimpse earlier of the wild woman running around outside when he goes up through his ventilation shaft. He does glimpse a woman in the distance. Although it's almost like, was he hallucinating her? But I don't think he was. Yeah. I think we're meant to not be sure.
It was hard not to think of Adam and Eve when he saw this girl, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, oh, he's going to fall in love with this girl now. Yeah. And then all these bloody worms and snakes came out of her, and I was like, this is kind of, without wanting to. I was like, well, there it is. That's done the work for me, Adam and Eve plus Snake. But yeah, I think the black and white is really, really key to this. It gives it a sort of optical binary that's very, very strong. It's not black and white in the way like old Dracula films are. It's not sort of like foggy, misty. It's very clear cut op art, black white stuff. It's which was obviously very striking and associated with trippiness. And if you switch lights on and off very quickly, or there's high contrast, it seems unnatural. Which I think both those episodes really showcase just how well 60s did that technological anxiety.
So, to run through each of these shows, if you had to rate them out of 5, with 5 being you would spend a lot of money on a lovingly curated Blu-ray box set, and 0 being you'd rather watch the test card, Conrad, where are you sitting for A for Andromeda?
It's only 4 to 5. That's a 4.5 from me. Yeah, I was completely hooked, completely absorbed. Yeah, 4.5.
Right, I think I'm 4 on this as well. How about you, Pete?
Yeah.
I'm a 4.5 as well. Yeah, I really liked
it. Moving quickly on to the tripods. Conrad,
this is an easy one for me. It's 5 if I get a whole box set of all 3 series. That would be nice. So it's a 5 for all 3 series for me. And actually, I've already bought the DVD of the other 2, so I don't know. No, it would be a 5 if there was a 3rd series.
I think I'm 2.5 at this point, and I think you guys have sold me on the books a bit more, maybe, than the TV series. Yeah.
You know what it is, Hannah? It's because you're a girl and you don't understand boys' adventures. That's why.
I can skip all the winemaking with the girls in the countryside.
That's the first time I've ever heard you say, pass up an alcohol. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
With girls in the countryside.
Let me just check your hair for capping. Sounds like not real you.
Having said that I would fight to keep colorizers away from the other 2, if Ben Cook wanted to have a go at knocking this thing down to about a 90-minute edit, that probably would be all right, actually. It's difficult. Yeah, I loved it. I can see its weaknesses. I might have talked about its weaknesses too much in this recording, actually. But yeah, it's a 3.5 from me.
Okay.
I'd buy the vanilla release, but not the really expensive one with cardboard box. Yeah.
Fair enough. So the machine stops, Conrad.
I'd be about a sort of strong 3 on a box set, but if I could get it inserted in some kind of tube and mainlined into my brain, that is an absolute 5. Because I have to say, I think this was probably the most kind of like challenging and arty one that I probably was kind of. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, A for Andromeda, I kind of want more as a regular series. This, I'm scared by it, but really fascinated. I thought it was an incredibly classy production. So I'm going to say 5 with the tube.
5 for me. I think I've seen a handful of other episodes of Out of the Unknown. It's what I always keep meaning to try and find more time for, because they've got such a great selection of writers. And I think especially the one day when I feel like for a lot of quality prestige dramas, it's a serial. I think being able to do like a single one-off play, but like linked by theme as the sci-fi element about the unknown, I really enjoy just being able to sit down with something that's an hour long and tells you a complete story, draws you into that world. Like I said before, I was totally gripped from this atmosphere straight away. Pete?
Yeah, me too. Obviously, I really loved this, and I know it's on IMDb sorting by what the IMDb viewers have put in. This is only the 12th best episode of Out of the Unknown. I've only watched a handful, so I'm gonna go in and watch more of them, definitely. But yeah, this is the one I want the deluxe box set of, please.
Out of the Unknown has been released by the BFI as a DVD box set. Conrad, where's tripods in terms of releases?
Yeah, tripods. Yep, you can get a tripods DVD set. That's very handsome.
Yeah. A for Andromeda wise, I think the DVD set of that has become a bit rarer these days, but like it's got a sequel which I think is probably sort of within that. But if you just want to check out the original single surviving episode, YouTube online, it's out there until there's any sort of reasonably affordable new release potentially.
Did you see? Somebody's actually uploaded it onto, done a compilation of A for Andromeda on YouTube, and I think it's only gone up a couple of months ago. It's about 2 hours long. It's this episode and the clips that exist from others, and then the rest of it is telesnaps, there's a full set of telesnaps, but there's no audio, so it's just telesnaps with spooky music playing and a caption saying, and he tells her that they must go to the thing, and he goes.
Yeah.
So it is sort of watchable in that format. Yeah.
It's more than what we've got for some missing TV series, so I'll take it. I definitely want to see more of Andromeda, whether it's that or like the sequel.
Yeah, and our scores totalised to 11 for the tripods, 13 for A for Andromeda, and 15 for Out of the Unknown. So, despite saying this was going to be an intelligent podcast, we've got a winner. That's yay!
I think. What do we get as a prize? Can we have all our memories wiped or something, or can I get an implant of some sort? I feel like I need an upgrade of some sort.
I've forgotten what we've said anyway, so yeah.
Brilliant. Hannah's already had the upgrade. Yeah.
We'll give you an implant that gives you a nagging sense that you're being watched.
Ooh. We're closing down for the night at the cafe, so thank you for listening to the Cathode Ray podcast. This has been a HPTV production from the Midlands. You've been listening to me, Hannah.
Me, Conrad.
And me, Pete. We hope you'll join us again next time for another chat about CRT-era telly. If you like this episode, please tell someone about it. For now, we'll wish you goodbye, and please remember to turn off your set. It might be watching you. Goodbye.
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 I've been making my own entertainment, doodling self-portraits on the back of this menu. It's A4 and draw me... No, I can't fucking do this.
It's nearly a pun. It's nearly a pun.
Your accent gets it better. You've been listening to me, Hannah.
Me, Conrad. It says guest me name.
Oh, you're actually reading the script. Right? Sorry. I forgot to do that. Yeah.
Give you a fucking script and...
I can only read words I've been given to say. I'm afraid that's no function.